Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. Previously an ordinary teenager named Mingfei had his heart destroyed when his crush was taken by another boy. A girl named Nono then convinces him to join a dragon-slaying academy where he learns about special powers some people have called Yanling. The story continues as Professor Mance explains that the two students named Cheng and Aji have successfully found a city made entirely of bronze. He states that Cheng sensed something down there, meaning it may not be a dead city after all, and the decision is made to investigate further. The principal gives him permission to use the key, and the key's caretaker explains that he must be absolutely careful when using him. The key is seemingly just a baby, and the caretaker explains it's the only key they have. Mance later explains that their target is the King of Bronze and Fire, a direct descendant of the Black King Dragon. It is the first descendant of one of the four great monarchs, and his recorded name is Norton. Mance states that through the eyes of humans, the dragons could be seen as gods or demons. However, in the eyes of the dragon, humans are merely slaves or ants. Neither side has tried to communicate with the other before, but now might be the perfect opportunity. He dives and meets up with his two students. Mance uses his Yanling to reveal the entrance and explains that a man had once bit the flame and was burned alive. His body didn't collapse though, and instead just turned to ash. He is the gatekeeper, and any intruders will be cursed by his terror. Mance then leaves the rest to the key baby, whose blood is able to wake the gatekeeper. The baby uses Solomon's key, and Mance states that every door opened by it leads to hell. The key baby is put back to sleep, and Mance reminds the students that they have 2 hours to bring out the skeleton of Dragon King Norton. However, if they are unable to, he instructs them to destroy everything using armored nukes. Mance returns to the ship and is amazed by the city at the bottom of the sea. A scan reveals that it is made up of several holes, much like an ant's nest, half submerged in water. Cheng instructs Aji to take pictures while he goes in search of his snake that he sent to explore. He orders her to evacuate on her own if things go wrong, and she reluctantly agrees. Taking pictures of a strange pillar reveals a passage that Mance believes may have been written by the Dragon King himself. The area is too large though, so Aji must take several pictures, but her heart begins to race. She states that she is fine and just needs to make an adjustment, but her transmission is interrupted. Mance wants Sheng to go after her just as they realize her lifeline has been severed. Sheng arrives just in time and explains that he found what they were looking for, but blew it up since it was too heavy to carry. They notice an object that they think is a totem of the Dragon Clan and attempt to take it, but it doesn't budge. Instead, a shadow appears to attack Aji, but she soon realizes that it's actually Sheng. He explains that when he came back, a strange statue was following her, but he can't figure out why. After firing some shots at it, Sheng explains that his snake had found something. He believes that if there is really a Dragon King sleeping there, then it is still a baby. Just then, the room's walls begin to shift and they determine Aji must have activated something. The pair attempt to make their escape, and Cheng now realizes that the city is aware of an invasion and is now closing. Elsewhere, Mingfei wakes up to the sound of a bell. Mingzi explains that it is the death bell and shocks Mingfei by taking him to the top of a tower. Mingzi points out how humans believe that things in their dreams are not real, but explains that maybe their so-called real world is actually the dream. Mingzi states that the death bell is ringing because someone is dying. Mingfei will end up getting in trouble, but an opportunity might also be presenting itself. Mingzi states that he needs to be prepared and reminds him of the cheats that he uses in his games. He asks if he could only choose one cheat, which one would he choose? Mingfei strangely chooses the ability to reveal the entire map, and Mingzi unseals the secret book. He explains that Mingfei will now get a detailed map of his surroundings, but warns that he shouldn't abuse it. Mingzi leaves just as Finger wakes Mingfei. He warns that an alarm is going off and it indicates an emergency. Finger compliments Nono on how good she looks, but is quickly hurt when she points out that only A-class and above are being summoned to help with the emergency. A-class and above students are all then sat in front of computers, and Mingfei once again notices the very calm girl from before. It is then explained that the two members of the executive department are trapped in a dragon relic. It is the Palace of Norton and is actually a giant ancient machine that's internal structure changes constantly. There is no fixed escape route, so they must solve the logic of its operation. They will use the scripture that Aji was able to take pictures of in the hopes that it will have the answers to how the city works. They only have 20 minutes though, and Caesar points out that humans can only translate a dragon script every 15 years on average. The man explains that Norma is desperately searching for help all over the world, but the two in danger are quickly running out of oxygen. Mingfei uses his ID card to gain access to the school system, and Norma explains that the interface being used is one from a game that he is most familiar with. Mingfei begins his attempt at finding a solution and is amazed by everyone around him. The top students at the school search for other relics around the world and search through ancient documents. Even the usually calm girl is frantically working, and Mingfei wonders if he is the only one who can't do anything. Just then, Mingfei remembers that he was granted a map by Mingzi. He begins to type in some letters and is surprised when everything including the entire city begins to shut down. The instructor now sees that the route has been solved, and everyone realizes it was Mingfei. He can't think of anything to say though, and just asks if everyone has already eaten. The ship is unable to receive the transmission from the school, but Sheng uses his snake to get it instead. The map is too big though, and under their condition, they are not able to confirm the correct exit. Sheng realizes that they need to use the key baby, and they have a look at the map. The key confirms the perfect path, and Sheng is able to see with his snake ability. Mance is told that they have 3 minutes worth of oxygen left, and including how long they can hold their breath, he determines that they will be able to return safely. Sheng prepares Aji for their escape, but she believes they don't have enough oxygen to make it. They are running out of time, so she decides to confess her love for him. Sheng interrupts her with a kiss though, and explains that he would never let her die there. He asks that she trusts him, and the two prepare to leave. At the ship, Mance celebrates how everything will be okay, and is told that they lost communication with the academy because of the storm. Mance then realizes something, demands a lifeboat, and heads outside. He explains that they will surely make it out of the city, but he didn't consider the time it would take to reach the top of the water. Their calculations were wrong, and they will not have enough oxygen. At the academy, Mingfei speaks with his old friend Tang and explains that the 2 people that interviewed him to get into Kesal College are in danger. Mingfei is finally able to relax though after being given some words of encouragement. Back at the mission, the rescue team has been searching for over 15 minutes, and Mance has decided to call off the search. Just then, Aji emerges from the water, but something is wrong as she is hysterical. She begs that the jar be taken immediately since Shang sacrificed his life for it, and explains it's even more important than her life now. Aji is instantly dragged back into the water though, and it becomes very clear that there is something dangerous down there. Mance desperately cries out for her, but quickly gathers himself when he sees the beast responsible. He gives instructions to recover the jar, and states that next will come revenge. Sonar can't detect their enemy very well as it's too fast, but they can tell that it is extremely large and moves like a fish. Mance couldn't care any less though, and simply explains that as long as it's alive, then it must die. Mance's assistant Selma wonders if it could be the Dragon King, and he states that it would be perfect since he was going to kill it anyway. After firing the first shot that lands perfectly, Mance unleashes a barrage of bullets on the monster. The creature is unbothered as it easily takes out the support helicopter, and Mance explains that it is surely after the jar that was taken from its city. Mance then has small underwater bombs sent out as the dragon rapidly approaches, and it consumes them. The bombs are detonated, resulting in a huge explosion that rattles the sea, and Selma thinks about how much of a shame it is that they couldn't capture the monster alive. Mance explains that he will recommend her for a promotion when they return, but she states that she would trade it all if it meant bringing back Aji and Sheng. Before she can finish though, Selma is pierced through the chest and dragged into the water by the dragon. Mance is completely beside himself now and unleashes all his remaining ammunition into the water. The dragon begins to make a menacing sound that everyone can hear, and Mance points out how the creature is laughing at them. It is revealed that more bombs are still inside the dragon and are ready to be detonated. However, Mance explains that the creature has opened its mouth towards them, and detonating the bomb will only end up destroying the ship. For them, it's a battle for their lives, but for the dragon, it is simply child's play. The ship's engines are overheating, so they can't move much more, but Mance is told that they are near a familiar dam. The man steering the ship warns that they will crash directly into it if they go at full power, but Mance reminds them who is in charge, and they speed off. The dragon chases after them, gaining speed quickly, but then begins to slow down. Mance realizes that the beast is too smart to fall for his trap, but injures the jar to regain the dragon's attention. Just before crashing into the dam, Mance has the key baby open the gate. With the dragon following close behind, the bombs are detonated and the monster is stopped for a brief moment. The explosion causes a dragon's tooth to pierce through Mance, but he manages to use his Yanling to push the dragon back. In that moment, Key Baby closes the gate on the dragon and it begins to laugh once more as it slowly dies. Back at the university, Principal Ange explains that the situation is now under control and thanks everyone for their efforts. Ange wants to personally thank the biggest contributor of the mission though, and directly thanks Mingfei. Everyone applauds Mingfei for his noteworthy success, and he humbly accepts. Afterwards, Ziheng approaches Mingfei and invites him to join the Lionheart Club. Zihang explains that the club will need a new president after he leaves, and he believes Mingfei will be a suitable successor. He doesn't want to rush the decision though, and explains that Caesar will likely try to invite him to the student council. Zihang explains though that people like Mingfei are good as both rivals and friends. Just then, the death bell rings and everyone pays their respects as Zihang explains that someone had just left this world. Back at the ship, Mance rejects offers of useless doctors and states that he simply wants to give his final report. He begins and Principal Ange explains that the copper jar has been sent to the university. They believe that it must contain an egg and explains that once they have all the answers, he will engrave it on his tombstone. Mance rejects the offer though. He simply wants the fact that their entire crew was wiped out to be hidden from the students, and wants them to be told that he just went on another mission. Mance believes that dragon slaying is still a fun and passionate thing for them, and doesn't want them to have to grieve over them. His final request is that Ange say hello to Nono for him and explain that it is time for her to have a new mentor. He is finally able to rest, and we are shown a glimpse of the copper jar as it begins to move. Sometime later, Mingfei receives an invitation to a dance to welcome all the freshmen to the school, but he doesn't want to go. Finger explains that it's clear that Caesar was the one that sent the invitation, but Mingfei isn't even sure who he is. Finger explains that Caesar belongs to a famous mixed-race family in the West world. He is the heir to the family, and they expect him to be the future emperor of the Western world. Mingfei attempts to get out of going by explaining he doesn't have a suit, but the invitation details where he can rent one. The two arrive at the party and they are shocked to see how extravagant it is. A bed of roses is laid out, forming a path, and Nono arrives to greet the guys. They admire her beauty for a moment, but Caesar calls out to her and Finger points out how she is a rose that doesn't belong to him. It is announced that the dance is about to begin, and Caesar is introduced as president of the student union. Caesar reveals that it's Nono's birthday and starts the dance. Finger gets an itch to dance and forces Mingfei to come along. Finger's bad dancing earns the two some attention from Caesar. Caesar is aware that Zihang invited Mingfei to the Lionheart Club, and also knows that Zihang anticipated Caesar would invite Mingfei to his group. Caesar won't though, and explains that he doesn't like when his opponents predict his moves. Nono points out how fortunate he is to have his family's last name, but Caesar explains he wants to be acknowledged as Caesar. He then gives a speech to all the freshmen about how they are all elite of the elite and how they will all go to do great things on the battlefield. The crowd erupts chanting Caesar's name, and he invites them to join the student union. Mingfei is then shocked to hear Caesar call his name. Caesar states that Mingfei can do as he says or leave, and then tells him to pick a song to perform a dance to. Mingfei looks to Finger to be his partner once again, but the calm girl from earlier appears, offering to dance instead. Finger encourages Mingfei, and the girl tells him to keep up with her rhythm. She demands a certain song be played, and the two begin their performance. She introduces herself as Zero and corrects Mingfei's posture. He does his best to keep up with her, and she explains that when a man dances this dance, he must feel like the king of the world. Mingfei performs better and has a vision of the two dancing elsewhere. Zero tells him to grab her by the waist at the end, and he does so perfectly. Zero leaves immediately after, and Mingfei notices that Nono leaves as well. He meets her outside to wish her a happy birthday, but she reveals she doesn't care too much about it. She explains that she is tired though, and asks Mingfei to drive her to the top of the mountain. When he expresses confusion, she simply explains that she would like to walk around up there. Just then, Norma warns of a red alert, and states that there might be a dragon invasion. The Academy's defense system is activated, and all entrances and exits have been sealed. She then reveals that the invaders are a small team of 13 people, and they have dispersed after entering the Academy. It's clear that they are after the copper jar brought back from the dam, and Norma explains that it is currently being kept at the Alheim Institute. Executive Department fighters are all on missions overseas, and she will have to rely on the students. Caesar and Zihang's groups are recruited to defend different areas, and they head out to get weapons. However, they are instructed to use only Frigg bullets and no live rounds. On the mountain, Mingfei sees that Nona has fallen asleep and is startled when Mingzi takes her place. Mingzi teases Mingfei for liking Nono, but he explains that Caesar is already chasing her. Mingzi says that she never shows much emotion and she has never loved someone before now. He reminds Mingfei of the words Nono told him about how confessions of love require music, lyrics, and flowers. Mingzi then surprises Mingfei by unlocking another secret book called Show Me the Flowers. Nono is then brought back and the two reach the top of the mountain where Nono hopes to walk around and finally see some stars. One of the intruders reports back to their leader and explains that only 6 of their members remain. As long as they are not able to use Yanling, the intruders will fail. However, their leader explains that she is confident the night watch will soon be lifted. Elsewhere, Norma explains that she is searching for the remaining intruders, and a man asks Professor Maine if he can just use his Yanling to find them. Maine reminds him that the night watch doesn't allow use of Yanling anywhere at the school. However, the man wonders if Maine can just ask Nightwatch to break the commandment since he is his father. Elsewhere, Nightwatch receives a call from Principal Ange, who explains that intruders have entered the school and he would like him to break the commandment. Nightwatch needs some time to think and wonders if the oil lamp has been burning for 12 or 15 years. He then receives a call from Maine, who makes the same request and reveals to the others that his father has agreed. Nightwatch explains that he will give this one gift to his son and breaks the commandment by putting out the flame, now allowing free use of Yanling throughout the entire school. Thanks for watching part 3, all other parts will be in a pinned comment below.